Before we founded Solar Foods and I became the CEO, I worked as a scientist at our National Research Institute, VTT, in Finland, and also at the university as a docent. And I was in charge of the single largest renewable energy research in the country so far. This project or program involved altogether about 200 people. You can find more information from neocarbon-energy.fi. That's neocarbon-energy.fi. And the target of that program was to design an energy system that can be based 100% on renewable energy, including all the storages and all that. And I believe we reached that target. Of course, there are many findings in that program, but I share with you two. The first driver that we see in the space of energy, food, and in saving the, let's say, planet and the climate, is that electricity will be the new primary energy. Exploring fossil carbon from the soil, whether it's natural gas, coal, or oil, and then burning it, oxidizing this carbon, and letting the CO2 go, seems to be a bad idea. So electricity, emission-free electricity, will be the new primary energy, whether it's renewables or some say nuclear, but still. We need to electrify, of course, turn into emission-free the current electricity use, electrified transport. Half of the energy use in the European Union is actually heating. We need to electrify heating sector, and we need to electrify industrial processes. Electrification. The second thing is that when we explored the energy system, we found that there's about 15% slice in this kind of emission-free, carbon-neutral system that still involves with carbon or energy carriers. So how do planes fly? How do we arrange maritime transport, heavy-duty transport? Where do we get the carbon and active ingredients for medicine? And where do materials and plastics or plastic-likes come from? And the solution for that was that we actually had a pilot plant running where we produced oil from the air with electricity. So you capture CO2 and water from the air with military technology that are used for civil shelters in submarines and even in the space for cleaning the CO2. And then you use the CO2 and actually hydrogen that you produce with the electricity and combine them in a synthesis to generate oil. And actually every one of you who have refilled your car at Shell have used the same kind of oil that we will produce, because the synthesis is the same as what Shell uses in Qatar when they use natural gas to produce oil. Now, the efficiency of such kind of system is about the same when you produce oil from electricity than producing electricity from oil with engines. Now we know that about 70 to 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions due human action are from energy sector. But the rest it comes from our plate. So if we take the Paris Climate Agreement seriously, turning the energy sector carbon neutral is not good enough. So the question was to my colleague scientists that could you replace this synthesis unit where we produce oils? Could you actually replace that with some kind of system that produces something more complicated, such as food? And the answer was yes. And here it is. So basically what we are doing, and Solar Foods is doing, we will bring to the market a completely new kind of protein during 2021. We're at the moment building our pilot plant in the capital area in Helsinki. It will produce this year about 1 kilogram per day of this protein. And the plant that will be the first commercial unit will produce about 1,000 tons of this protein per year. And that will happen in 2021. Meanwhile, we will use the pilot plant batches to license the food for novel food, because this doesn't exist yet in the market, so we need to prove that it's food. This is completely naturally occurring organism that we grow. It's paleo, lacto, ovo, you name it. And it's about 50% protein, something in between plant-based proteins and meat. The basic idea here is, and how we differentiate is, that when we go directly from the minimum requirements for life, go directly from nutrients and electricity and CO2 to cells and food, we disconnect completely from the use of land. We don't even indirectly use plants as feedstock. So basically, I believe that many of you think that, me including, that we live the times of post-truth. So during those times, it is important that scientists come up in front and say that science is like magic, but it's real. Thanks very much.